Let's get into today's episode of Why We Succeed.
What is going on, everybody? It's your man, Immanuel, and we are back for another episode of Why We Succeed. Today, I have a very, very special guest joining me on the podcast, my girl, Bri. What's going on with you, Bri?
Hey, Jay, doing good. So grateful to be on the show. Thankful for the opportunity to talk with you again.
Oh, man, it's an honor. I've been knowing you for some years, back when I was doing the Right to Real Love podcast. And, it's such an honor and a joy and a pleasure to have you on here supporting the new Why We Succeed podcast. And I'm excited because today is a little bit different. I often have guests come on to talk about their journeys as entrepreneurs, but we're going to be diving into emotional intelligence and how that can be a benefit to content creators and aspiring entrepreneurs. So I do want to still ask you the question that I ask all of my guests who come on the show, which is, how do you define success?
I define success as being in alignment with my values and my purpose. A lot of people, we can go through the motions of life and just kind of do whatever's popular. You try to keep up with the Joneses, but God created us all with unique gifts, talents, and purposes. So as much as we can, we want to try to follow those. Of course, there are things in life that are might hinder us, but as long as we can be in alignment, we can do the things that God called us to do. And that's how I define success.
I love that. Yeah, purpose is huge. I think that when we don't have a purpose, we're just kind of aimlessly walking or sometimes even just wandering through life. So having a firm understanding or a clear vision of our purpose is extremely important. And I can definitely see how that would tie to our success in life, whether that's spiritually or business-wise or otherwise as well. So since we're here to talk about emotional intelligence, kind of want to start off with your first introduction to it. When did you first learn about emotional intelligence?
Well, growing up, emotional intelligence was something that I learned about gradually. I first learned about self-awareness. There's 4 areas of emotional intelligence. There's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Mm-hmm. And when I was younger, self-awareness was something I was just naturally inclined to as being an introvert. Okay. I sought to understand how I was unique because my mother, she was the biggest extrovert I knew, and I was the biggest introvert that I knew. So we would conflict, and I didn't understand why we were so different. And that led me to reflect a lot. And I took all these different personality tests. I just wanted to understand myself. And as I did, it made me see, the value of me being unique and reflected on my emotions and learning from those. And as I got older, I realized that knowing my strengths, knowing my weaknesses, especially in college, I had so many, when you have job interviews and things and you're trying to, graduate and get that nice job that everybody tells you to do.
Right.
I could answer those questions in job interviews. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And then I got to learn about the other 3 areas of emotional intelligence. And once I had seen the benefits of self-awareness in my life. So I knew that the next 3 areas would only, make my life that much better, would carry me that much further in life. And I learned about, there are different organizations that specialize in it. And I ended up getting a certification in emotional intelligence. And nice. It's been a great journey.
Oh man, I want to learn more about the certification you got and what that process looks like, but I don't want to jump the gun. Let's kind of lay the groundwork and the foundation for the people. Maybe there's somebody out there watching who's never heard of emotional intelligence. Can you explain what exactly it is?
Sure. So like I said earlier, emotional intelligence, there's 4 different areas. Self-awareness is knowing your emotions and knowing why. And that's really important because sometimes we feel one thing and we might respond, it might show up in another way. There might be an emotion, you want to have your actions proportionate with your emotions and the source of those emotions. For example, if you are driving to work and somebody cuts you off and you get really angry, and then you go into work and you're very short in an email, those don't, even though you're upset about what happened earlier, you're taking it out, it's being displayed as something that has absolutely nothing to do with that situation. So
Right.
self-awareness is very, very important. And it also includes introspection, being able to reflect. Some ways people do that through journaling. There's many different ways you can do that. You also requires you to be honest with yourself.
Mm.
Some people, we can suppress emotions. We can, especially unfortunately, sometimes men can suppress how they feel.
That's
It's
real.
it happens,
Yes.
unfortunately. But being able to be honest with yourself is a big part of self awareness. You can't manage what you're not aware of, and you can't be aware of it unless you're being
Mm.
honest with yourself. So
So
that
true.
leads into the second part of emotional intelligence, self management.
Mm.
You Once you are aware of what's going on, self management helps you emotionally regulate yourself, and
Mm.
it's very holistic. So that means there's different levels and different areas to it. So I like to see it, the top three for me for the different areas of self management. You have a
Mhm.
physical area, an emotional area, and a spiritual area. So
Okay.
physically, there may be something going on with you. You might not be meeting your bodily needs. You might be hungry. You might be tired, um, thirsty. All those things can impact your mood. I really like the Snickers commercial, the campaign they have. You're not yourself when you're hungry.
Right.
So it's very emotionally intelligent, and I appreciate that advertisement every time I see it,
Yeah.
because you realize something's off, like something's throwing you off. Oh, you're
Mm.
hungry. You need to eat, and usually in the commercial, the person is like warped into maybe a cartoon character or some other character, and once they eat the Snicker, they're back to their original self. So you
Right.
see that once you are regulating whatever is off, it brings you back into area into wellness where you can operate from a healthy perspective. Um, and then you have a mental level, how you're talking to yourself,
Mhm.
how you processing your emotions. Once you label them, giving yourself time to pause and really deal with what you're going through. There's many other ways you can self-regulate emotionally, mentally. There are things now, as emotional intelligence is becoming more of a buzzword now. I
Mhm.
call them mind hacks that
Mm.
are out there. You can learn how to the things that happen in our body that we need, like dopamine, serotonin. There are ways
Mhm.
you can stimulate those to bring yourself back to a healthy state. And spiritually, as you know, like I said in an example earlier, when you
Mhm.
had that encounter on the road, the person cut you off, and you got angry. You in the moment you might feel like you need to get that person back, or you need to be in control of the situation. But as a Christian, we believe, well, personally speaking for me,
Mhm.
believing that God's in control. I believe that the God is in when He's in control. I don't have to be in control, so I can kind of let go and forgive and move on to
Mhm.
what's happening in the situation. So, and there are other levels as well, but those
Mhm.
are my top three for
Okay.
self management. And then the third area, social awareness, is
Mm.
a lot of people will equate that to having empathy with people, um,
Okay.
being socially aware of a situation, because emotions can be contagious. Once you walk into a room, you can see if people are happy or are sad or um, just whatever emotion is around. And
Mhm.
once we get into talking about entrepreneurship and content creation, you'll see that emotional social awareness is very important for entrepreneurs to be
Mm.
knowing how their customers are feeling, and so that can play a really big part. The fourth area of relationship management is pretty much managing relationships,
Mm.
all the things that happen in relationships, potentially conflict, getting feedback,
Mhm.
communication, developing those skills so you can make the most of relationships in your life.
Oh man, yo, that's really, really powerful. I appreciate you for going through each of the four and kind of giving us a brief synopsis of each of them. That's really helpful. And I'm curious
No
on your
problem.
personal journey. I know you mentioned self-awareness was the first one that you kind of tapped into even before you got a full understanding of the other three areas. When you look at yourself along your journey, which one has been the more challenging one for you to develop personally?
For me personally, it was social awareness.
Mm,
As as I mentioned, self awareness. I was really caught up in myself and learning about myself. And being an
mhm,
introvert, I wasn't very social as much. And as I got older, I had to learn to really value people and the stories that they have. And seeing, especially as a Christian, I learned there's a Latin term called imago Dei, which means that everyone has value. No one's greater or less than you, so you see everyone as an equal perspective. And I had to learn to give the grace that I was giving myself, like as an introvert
mhm.
and who I was. I had learned to extend that grace to other people who were extroverts that I didn't understand. So being able to communicate with other people and seeing their value, social awareness is definitely the area that I've had to grow in. And I will add that everyone
Mhm.
has their own emotional intelligence journey that they're going. Some people might be really strong in social awareness, and they might need help in the like self-awareness area or
Mhm.
self-management. So it is a very personalized individual journey.
Right. And it just kind of fit perfectly with the fact that you said social awareness is one that really is important for content creators as well as aspiring entrepreneurs. In what way can being socially aware help content creators, would you say?
It can be a really great help. Emotional intelligence overall for entrepreneurs is really a competitive advantage.
Mm,
You are able to connect with your customers. You can put yourself in their shoes. It helps you create the best product or service for them because you're thinking with them in mind. You're not
mhm,
just thinking about what you want to put out and what you feel like doing. You're seeing um, what they will want. You may be doing more interviews, or it'll lead you to go the extra mile for your customers. And when creating content, also you will have them in mind. And social awareness can definitely take you very far as a entrepreneur.
right. And when you talk about it from the perspective of a content creator, it makes me think about the process of creating like an avatar.
Mhm.
Like when I think about a podcast, or even in some cases for a business, right? People will create ideal customer profile or ICP. I think in those instances, it can be extremely valuable when you do have that social awareness so that you're creating content or you're presenting or writing copy or selling something or presenting information in a way that will resonate with your audience and the people that you're trying to attract or bring into your tribe. So I think that that's really helpful. I know it's helped me because when I created the first what is it, the first avatar for Right to Real Love, it helped me so much when I was creating content, and it actually helped me early on to see some of the mistakes that I was making. And one of the biggest ones was the first year for Right to Real Love. I just chose topics that were of interest to me, and it wasn't until I started to really become more aware of the audience and the people that were listening that I was able to say, oh, okay, hold on, I need to change it up. It's not really about what I think is interesting, but what do they care most about?
Right. And that is a blend of social awareness and relationship management where you're actually
Mm,
making changes to your content once you realize what your customers want. Because that's what business and entrepreneurship at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. If
right.
you can make people feel seen and heard and let people know how much you care, I mean, that's going to take your business far. You even want to move from, I'm sure you've heard of the golden rule, like treat others how you want to be treated.
Right.
Social awareness and relationship management help you move into the platinum rule. Have you heard of the
Mm.
platinum rule?
No, I haven't. What is it?
The platinum rule is treat people how they want to be treated. So
Mm,
it's realizing that everyone's people are unique. So as you how you treat yourself, someone might want to be treated differently. So the platinum rule is kind of a step further than
mhm.
the golden rule.
Right. Right. Because it takes emotional intelligence in order to do it, right? Because you have to be socially aware. And then relationship management will come into play, at least in my mind. Definitely let me know if I'm wrong. Once you're interacting with somebody, right? I think the self-awareness piece will allow you to say, okay, hold on. Maybe this person doesn't want to be treated the way I want to be treated. So now I have to put in a little bit of extra work to do what? Manage that relationship, speak to them, have interactions to determine what is it that they're looking for. And then once I figure out what that is, that social awareness piece, you can put it into play.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Nah, that's good. That's good right there. And one of the other things that I want to go back to is when you were talking about you were able to get certified. What did that process look like for you?
So there's a company called EIQ2 Center
Hmm.
where I got my certification, and they took me through the four different areas of emotional intelligence. There was a series of slides and trainings that helped me study each area, and at the end of that, I received the certification. There's other companies such as 6 Seconds,
Hmm.
the ISEI, I think it's the International Society for Social. I might have to look it up to see exactly what
Yeah,
it
no
stands
pressure. I
for,
mean,
but there are a
it can
few
be
other
difficult to recall.
organizations that are
Hmm.
out there, and even if you're open to being if you're looking to become an emotional intelligence coach, you can get a certification. But even for someone in business
Hmm.
or um, different areas, there's different certifications that will just help you because growing in emotional intelligence, it's definitely a top skill that's being looked for right now. And
Hmm.
if you have that, especially if you can prove that you're certified in it, it can definitely add you can bring value to your job. Your business will the job you're working for, or your if you're an entrepreneur, your clients will see that. And there's a book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0 where they talk about for every point you can increase your emotional intelligence. They have an assessment where they each area they have a scale from 0 to 100, how good
Hmm.
you are in that particular quadrant of emotional intelligence. For every point you can get better, you can raise your salary because they look at in the book they focus mainly on people who work at companies.
Okay.
I'd be curious to see this number from a entrepreneur perspective, but they said for every point you increase your emotional intelligence, you can raise your salary by $1,000.
Wow.
So there's
Wow.
definitely like
That's definitely an
tangible results.
incentive.
Yes, definitely an incentive to become more emotionally intelligent.
Yeah. And I kind of want to look at things from the perspective of somebody who may be tuning in and this is completely brand new to them. Like they
Mhm.
never heard of it. Cause I honestly was in that boat earlier this year. I think I had a idea like you of what self-awareness is and like social awareness, but not necessarily understanding that they fell under the umbrella of emotional intelligence. So for somebody who's completely brand new to this and they want to begin developing their emotional intelligence, what do you think is a good way to start?
There are a few different ways. I'll start very broadly, and then I'll
Okay.
get more personalized for that person.
Okay.
You can start with reading some books and resources. I mentioned the Emotional Intelligence 2.0 book earlier. It's one of the most popular books about emotional intelligence, and it walks you through those four different areas. And you'll see what I like about the book is very practical. It shows you great examples of high and low emotional intelligence,
Mhm.
and the book also includes an assessment, so you
Oh,
can
nice.
see. You take it once before you read the book, and then you can take it once after, so you can see how you've improved in an emotional intelligence. There's also different resources out there like blogs. A great one is
Mm.
positivepsychology.com. They have a lot of good articles on emotional intelligence because you'll see that emotional intelligence is a mix of, you can bring in mental health, different area psychology, a lot of
Mhm.
those things tie together to understand emotional intelligence. You can go down a rabbit hole learning about all of those things because one thing will, fascinate you and lead you to another area and so on. So psychology and mental health play a large part into that. So
Mm.
you can start learning. So it will lead you into learning some of those things as well.
Right.
As you grow in your journey, if you are also still interested in wanting to grow, you can get um, you can get coaching, emotional intelligence coaching, if you want to
Mm.
learn more. The most effective way to develop and grow in emotional intelligence will be ways that where you're looking at yourself from someone else's perspective or an assessment. So those assessments will let you see how you compare. It will show you where you need to grow. So as I said, someone might be really skilled in social awareness, but they need to work in self awareness. So it will show you those different areas where you need to grow. But overall,
Hmm.
emotional intelligence, I'll get broad again. So there are
Okay.
different skills in order to start your emotional intelligence journey before you, I guess, get into the assessments and things.
Hmm.
And I mentioned some of these earlier. It's going to require um, just you being honest, like I said, with yourself,
Hmm.
for the self awareness. Um, it's going to require you to start being more present in conversations with others, being more curious about others. Um, as you're more honest, you're going to develop that self awareness. As you're present in conversations, it will help you start to notice others' emotions better and being able to respond to that in conversations. Because sometimes, we can be in conversations and we're just thinking about, what we're going to say. But as you are more present and mindful of the other person, that's going to help you become more socially aware of other people and making your relationships better as well.
Yeah.
So I
And
know,
no.
sorry, I know it was all a little over the place, but emotional intelligence is such a broad topic with those
Mhm.
four different areas. For someone who doesn't know much about it, there's so many different places you can start. But hopefully, those books,
Mhm.
blogs, and to get more personalized taking assessments, those will definitely get you on the right path.
Yeah, that's helpful. I definitely plan to grab that book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0.
Yes,
Somebody else had mentioned it previously, and yeah, now I'm like, yo, I gotta go grab that. And the fact that
definitely.
you mentioned that the assessment is included with the purchase of the book, so like you can't
Yes,
beat
if
that
you
because
buy it new.
yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, definitely got to get my hands on that. So I appreciate you for recommending it. There was something that you mentioned when you were, explaining that, which was positive psychology. What is that?
So positive psychology includes positive thinking. That's just the name of the website. It's positivepsychology.com. It
Okay.
explores, they have blogs and different resources about emotional intelligence and other psychology aspects of psychology, which does also include positive psychology, positive thinking, and using that for shaping emotional intelligence and other areas, because it's really interesting to learn how thinking positive, how that can show up and help you succeed in life, being having a positive emotions. All of those things can help you be more successful in different areas of life, not just
Hmm.
in business. But um, there's it's a really good site. They have really good articles and things to read, especially as someone who wants to grow in emotional intelligence in different areas of life. I would definitely recommend checking that site out. For example,
Hmm.
there was a study that said that entrepreneurs, they're more likely to negatively evaluate business opportunities when you're experiencing negative emotions.
Wow.
So just think, if you're able to process those emotions and deal with those before you look at opportunities, you may be able to have more of a be able to receive those in a better way and process things better once you sort through your own emotions.
That makes sense. Having a more positive outlook. Yeah,
Yes.
that's powerful. Now, I'm curious, when you look back on your journey, are there any experiences, whether it be professional, creating content, even your own business ventures, where you've seen emotional intelligence help you out? If so, can you share that experience with us?
Definitely with my job, as I've learned about myself, it helps me lean into my strengths.
Mm.
And you'll each like I said, each person has different strengths and different gifts. So as I've learned about emotional intelligence and self-reflecting, there's different personality types, and I am naturally someone who is one of my top values is peace. And that
Mm.
helps me
Yeah.
be a good negotiator. And leaning into that, it makes me feel that creates positive feelings for me, and I don't like conflict. So I'm more likely to experience like negative emotions when there's conflict. So what I could do, someone with low emotional intelligence,
Hmm.
when you learn about yourself, you could either, you get those results and what you might put yourself in a box because of those. But
Right.
as you develop higher emotional intelligence, you look to grow from assessments and things you take. One of the assessments that show me about peacekeeping as well is the Enneagram test.
Mm.
It's a range of numbers from 1 to 9 with different personality types. So I was number 9, which is someone who really values peace. It's pretty
Mm.
much called a peacekeeper, literally.
Okay.
So with my job, I have a lot of different teams that I work with. And so that led me to really learn more about being able to keep the peace and have conflict management. As if I was someone, if I hadn't developed my emotional intelligence, I might have just said, "Hey, I can't deal with this." But lean into being able to connect with people and learn how to bring peace to my job, and
Mm.
having being able to diffuse tension at work with all these different teams that I'm working with, and learning how to be that peacekeeper helped me lean into my purpose at work and being successful at work. And that skill is really appreciated. I've learned on my job. I'm always getting compliments from my manager about how I
Nice.
can keep everyone together, and some people have their ideas going this way and going that way, and to bring everybody to remember the main goal and keeping people focused. And it's definitely been helpful for me throughout my career. Emotional intelligence will help you lean into those strengths. So
Mhm.
it's been a really good journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm happy to hear that you've been able to utilize it in your professional life and it have a positive impact, not just on you, but also the people that you're working with. And it definitely has to feel good when you get that positive feedback, be like, okay, yo, like they noticed it and yes, it's helping. Yes, I love that. I love that. Now, one of the things that comes to mind for many content creators or even people who want to be entrepreneurs but haven't done it yet, how can emotional intelligence be used to kind of get people over that hump where they're finally going to start that business? They're going to, execute, take action on that idea that they had. How can it help us do that?
It can definitely help speak at the beginning of your process as an entrepreneur. Even when you're starting to create your business plan, you think about learning your values. Like when you're creating your plan, you want to make sure that your values and that align with your business goals. Because at the end of the day, you want to have something that you're proud of, that's um, a part of your values. You might be, stressed as an entrepreneur. From the experience that I have doing some things outside of work, when you're an entrepreneur, like it's a 24-hour job. Like
Right.
you're a one man, one woman show trying to get everything done. And a part
Hmm.
of emotional intelligence is stress management.
Hmm.
So that emotional regulation, being able to deal with stress, um, imposter syndrome, things like that. Emotional intelligence can definitely help with those. I think about people who are presenting their business when you're out networking. You may be, stressed out, and you think about your emotions. If you're feeling, anxious and stressed, um, having that self-awareness, your heart rate is going up. It's amazing the connection between like our emotions and our bodies. So
Mm.
long term, you're feeling that stress, that could that leads to anxiety. You might start to feel that physically in your body, and that's going to impact how you're talking to people, how you're speaking to people.
Yeah.
So if you can learn emotional regulation, before you go into, the meeting or wherever you're going, or talking to someone, if you learn what works best for you, maybe you need to take some deep breaths, or
Hmm.
whatever else works for you. There's lots of different, as I mentioned earlier, the mind hacks that can
Right.
help you relax and be at your best self, so you can represent you and your company well.
Yeah. And I'm curious, what are some of the mind hacks that you found to be effective?
Definitely, like I said, the deep breathing, and leaning into, like I said, what once you learn about yourself, you can apply those things to help you. Like for me as an introvert, I can lean into those strengths as an introvert. I can tap into, okay, I want to research. So if I feel prepared before I go into this meeting, then that's going to help me be my best self. So for different people, there different things are going to work better for them. You as you grow in emotional intelligence, you'll learn what works best for you, and you can apply that to different situations because there's not going to be like a one size fits all strategy. You learn different things that work for you. You might need to eat, dark chocolate. That might relax you a little.
Right.
You never know. A little chocolate, a little sugar rush.
Hmm.
There might be so many different things. Like I said, there's physical level, mental level, how you talk to yourself.
Yeah.
Self-talk has really changed. Um, might help me think better and act better in situations.
Hmm.
Because emotional intelligence helps you think more, think more from uh, think more from a rational perspective instead of being when
Okay.
you're in your emotions.
Hmm.
We the term that they use in Emotional Intelligence 2.0 book, when you're all emotions, is called emotional hijacking. And
Mm.
where emotions take control, you're going to be more prone to, you know, the fight or flight response. You're going to be more flight. If you're not thinking clearly, you're going to rush into probably jump into conclusions about something,
Mm.
or having that black or white thinking, all or nothing thinking. So
Right.
if you're able to regulate your emotions and think more rationally, you're going to be able to process things better and again be at your best self.
That makes sense. Yeah. One of the things that you had mentioned was emotional regulation and then also self-talk. Do those kind of go in tandem when you find yourself in a position where maybe there's negative thoughts or negative self-talk going on and you want to quiet that? Is that where emotional regulation would come in, or would you apply a different technique?
Yes, in that time, if you're feeling stressed, the self talk can really be helpful for emotional regulation. You'd be surprised how your body listens to stress. If I just say in my head, relax,
Mhm.
and before I know it, like I feel the tension just kind of leaving. I just feel more relaxed because I stopped all that chatter in my head, and just kind of let myself relax. Because once you are able to, through self awareness, label the emotion that you're feeling, that
Mhm.
also has been proven to. You just say, "Hey, I'm feeling really, angry right now. I'm feeling really stressed, or whatever emotion. Once you put a label to it, your body can start and your mind can start processing that instead of,
Right.
I'm just going to suppress this and bury it and let it build up. And you may become, I don't think I shared this, I probably didn't share this earlier, but like you can become very passive aggressive. That's
Mhm.
something I have dealt with before. Being
Okay.
an Enneagram 9, wanting to keep the peace, like you can become passive aggressive if you
Mm.
don't learn to, you don't want to overreact and you don't want to underreact. You want to have that
Mhm.
balance
Right.
and being able to come across to be assertive and get your point across. So being able to know that is important as well. But self-talk, telling yourself to relax, once you recognize that emotion, you can
Mhm.
speak to it and process it and work through it, even if it's in your head at the
Nah, that's
moment.
good. That's really good. Now, I already know there are some people that are listening to this. They like, yo, this sounds amazing. I want to develop my emotional intelligence, but you know what often happens? Life. People don't take any action on it. So, what would you say is a disadvantage of a person now being aware of how important and how beneficial emotional intelligence can be, but not choosing to actually develop it?
So by not developing emotional intelligence, it's when we think about the benefits, you're not going to get to those benefits. All those things that we talked about earlier, having those better relationships, um, a sense of who you are, you're definitely more likely to just, like we said, go through the motions of life. You're gonna that's one of the worst feelings, is to just feel like you're just kind of living, existing,
Right.
keeping up with the Joneses, but you still feel like in your heart that like something
Mhm.
is off, like something's not right. I'm not like living to my full potential, what I could be doing. Even though, you're feeling these, bad emotions that, had you been tapping into, self-awareness, you can say, okay, I feel this bad emotion. What can
Mhm.
I do about this? How can I self manage and take action to make myself feel better? Like, what's the action I need to take? So you're going to continue to, you may feel worse, um, just depending on, how serious what you're ignoring,
Mhm.
maybe missing, maybe even missing your purpose.
Right.
I'll give you an example. When I was in high school, my original major was pharmacy.
Mm.
Before I did end up changing it, but and my mom took me to a seminar for my college that I was attending, and there was a guy there who started talking about pharmacy and how the people at the pharmacy school, they live, eat, and breathe pharmacy, and they're very passionate about what they do. And it hit me, and I had this weird emotion, and I was like,
Mhm.
why does this feel so weird? Like,
Mm.
I could have just, ignored that and kept my major as pharmacy. But I sat and processed that emotion. And I
Mm.
realized, the reason I'm feeling this way is because I'm not passionate about pharmacy. This isn't
Right.
this might not be what I want to do in life. I don't want to, or like, imagine if I didn't listen to that, and then I went to pharmacy school. I got in all this, debt, and even if I even passed my classes, if I graduated, um, I would have looked back and like went into all this for something that wasn't even the purpose that I was called for,
Mm.
versus having to sit down, look at that emotion, process it, and that really made me self-reflect about what are my strengths, what have I been doing in high school, what have I been involved in, what
Mhm.
major is better suited for all of those things, and
Right.
I ended up changing my major to business.
Mm.
And think about like you're going to have these forks in the road in life,
Mhm.
and hopefully emotional intelligence, developing your EQ, will steer you in a way that's going to propel you in purpose and the things that you're called to do in life.
Right. Yeah, that's so important, is utilizing it to make right decisions. And I think that's really what you just elaborated for us in your own experience, is you were able to tap into that emotion, not ignore it, not say, you know what, maybe that's just a feeling, it's just a one off. Like, no,
Yeah.
like, what is that?
Yeah.
And you just happen to be at a crossroad where you're making a big decision. And when we talk about people who are entrepreneurs, business owners, even when we're talking about content creators, we're often at these forks in the road where we're having to make decisions that can have a great impact, whether it be on how effective you're building your audience or growing your platform as a content creator, or how profitable your business is, whether you're making the right decisions. So I really appreciate you for, kind of tapping in and touching on how important it is to not ignore those emotions when you find yourself at some of those forks in the roads in life. Yeah, that's helpful.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, yeah. Yo, this is really, really important because, like I said, I just became aware of emotional intelligence this year, and it's definitely something that I want to start to develop and to get better at. And, eventually, similar to you, go through that certification process so that I can be able to help other people to develop their emotional intelligence as well. And I'm just grateful for you coming on and sharing with us what it is, how it can be a benefit to those of us who are content creators and entrepreneurs. And I'm curious, is there anything else that you feel we need to know as content creators and entrepreneurs about emotional intelligence that can benefit us?
Hmm. I'm thinking because as content creators and entrepreneurs, emotional intelligence, it teaches you to respond and not react. And as a
Mm.
as content creators, usually, the person, like you're your brand. Like people
Right.
will, know you and they see your brand. You're making all your posts and things. So you're usually the face of your company. So emotional intelligence, when you have that, emotional regulation in place where you can respond rather than react, you are helping your brand to stay well known. And because I believe I'm trying to think if the Bible has a scripture where you can lose your reputation pretty easily. You can spend years building up your reputation, and one mistake, one bad emotional reaction can tarnish you forever. I mean,
Right.
just should I even bring up Will Smith at the Oscars? I mean, it's
Yeah.
it can change you making a one bad emotional response
Right.
you can put a stain on your reputation forever. So being able to respond and not react out of emotion is definitely a powerful thing to learn.
Right, right. I agree with you. Yeah. I'm just sitting here just thinking about some of the ways that I can see it coming into play. Like I mentioned earlier, if somebody is early on and they don't yet know the right audience to target, or they don't
Hmm.
really know the right customers or prospects to be centering their products or their services toward, emotional intelligence can really help when it comes to that, just kind of getting more focused on who those people are. Well, I take that
Definitely.
back, because it's probably more helpful after you do know who those people are, because then you can spend more time getting into groups or having interactions with those types of people to learn what it is that resonates best with them. So I'll take that back. It may not necessarily help as much in trying to figure out who those people are, but once you do have a good handle on who your ideal customer or audience is, then you can start to spend that time invested in how best to connect with them. And I think emotional intelligence could come into play in that regard.
Yes, you can learn their pain points,
Hmm.
different marketing, being able to see what they're looking for. Yes, social having that social awareness can definitely help any entrepreneur, whether you make a product or a
Hmm.
service. Being able to know what they're looking for and the what best appeals to them is very uh, having knowing basic psychology
Hmm.
as in marketing, like certain colors will appeal to people.
Yeah.
Knowing what emotions you want to. I don't know if I'm sure you've done a lot of writing, copywriting, how people write certain words to
Hmm.
um, elicit certain emotions.
Right.
Knowing how to use wording like that. Those popular buzzwords, the
Hmm.
what is it called? Give people shock value and things. Learning
Yes.
how to give that and make your content come across as more wanting to be read or picked up by people,
Mm.
but still being able to have that human voice and be able to connect with people at the same
Right.
time. So like I said, helping people feel seen and heard, also giving that personalized experience to people where they feel valued.
Hmm.
That's a priceless formula to have as an entrepreneur.
It is. It is. And when I start looking at things more so from specifics, I would say, like, for coaches,
Hmm.
extremely important. Like, if you have a coaching business, if you're able to develop your emotional IQ, I think that it'll allow you to be able to serve your clients to a much greater degree. And if you're really invested, getting certified, I'm sure it can help when it comes to increasing the amount of your rates. Being
Yes.
somebody that can really tap in and help people in that area can definitely increase your profits overall. Looking at it from the perspective of a coach. And then, as you mentioned as well, like, if we talking to our freelance entrepreneurs out there, if you're a copywriter or you're a marketing professional, I think that it will really help you, whether you're writing copy or creating marketing materials for yourself or for your clients. Just being able to tap in emotionally, using that EQ to write in a way that people are going to respond to the things that you're trying to present or to market to them, I think will be extremely beneficial. So, yeah, those are just two things that kind of came off the top of my head, for my coaches out there, and for anybody that's in the space of email or copywriting or digital marketing. I think that it can be an extremely valuable skill to develop.
Yes, definitely. Those are really great points. And as you become more self-aware, you can reflect and you have your own stories to share with people where people can identify
Right.
with you. Great storytelling. Definitely, as you increase your emotional intelligence and have that self-awareness, you are able to connect with people too, because you've reflected on your journey, your story, and you can share that with others as well.
Yes, yes. Oh man, yo, this has been so much fun. Yo, Bree, you are always dropping gems. I did want to ask you, are there any other books or resources other than the ones that you already mentioned that you think will be beneficial to anybody who wants to develop their emotional intelligence?
There are other books out there, and especially if it depends on your if what you have going on in life, the different ways you want to prove. For example, if you're a parent,
Hmm.
you there's resources out there for parents to
Mm.
have emotional intelligent children. The Yale Institute of Emotional Intelligence, led by Mark Brackett, they have something that's called the Ruler Method on their website, which is an
Mm.
acronym that takes you through. Um, I'll see if I can remember all of them. I feel
No
I'll
pressure,
quiz
no pressure at
myself.
all.
I'll quiz myself. R, I believe, is recognizing emotion, understanding the emotion within you. Um, L, perhaps it's I can't remember all of them, but
Yeah,
the
no
Ruler
pressure.
Method is a technique that they have. There's others. There's so many others in different areas of life for relationships. There's
Hmm.
um, relationship, emotional intelligence based relationship. There was a book on Audible or Amazon. You can just type in relationship or emotional intelligence for relationships, and that will
Okay.
bring up some things. I'm trying to think what else. It's amazing to see the different the resources that are out there.
Mhm.
There's even there's a man named DB Bedford, which is he's one of my like mentors in my head because he um, has a whole consulting company on emotional intelligence. He's someone
Oh
who
wow.
grew up in California, in and out of the criminal justice system,
Mm.
um, and dealing with the all the things that happen out in California, perhaps gangs and things. And when he got into his early 20s, he started learning about emotional intelligence and really turned his life around. And he became a consultant. He teaches companies and other people about emotional intelligence, and his website is actually called ineverworry.com.
Mm.
And he has many resources, including books. And he has I think it's a 30-day wellness emotional intelligence book
Mhm.
for people with different exercises and things that they can utilize. I'm trying to think what else he has. Oh, this is what I should have mentioned earlier too. He even goes his latest venture is that he's using emotional intelligence to help with day trading
Oh
in the
wow.
market. So with all the things that go in the market, having emotional intelligence can help you, respond rather than react like to a market crash or different things going on financially in the financial industry. Taking advantage of emotional intelligence to get the most for your returns. So
Right.
it's interesting to see how emotional intelligence can help you in all these different areas of life.
Yeah, that's amazing. I appreciate you for sharing those additional resources. I'm definitely going to check out his website and see
Yes.
what other resources he has to offer too. And another thing that comes to mind, I'm curious, are there any daily habits that help you to continue improving or developing your emotional intelligence?
Yes, definitely. Daily habits will include journaling, being able to reflect. That's a great way to think about your self awareness, your self management, how you're responding in situations, what you liked, what you didn't like. As you become self aware, you can see like what adjustments you need to make. There's also within the era of technology that we have, there's lots of apps that help you track your mood,
Mm.
different things that will help you have that awareness and even management. For example, I have this. I guess you call it. It's not an Apple Watch or anything. It's just a
Mhm.
cheap $30 pedometer from Amazon.
Uh-huh.
But it's really cool because it tracks, not only does it track my steps, but
Mhm.
it will monitor my heart rate. It even
Mm.
has stress. It monitors stress. So I can look at those things and okay, my heart rate is increasing.
Mhm.
What's going on with me, or the stress level. I'll check my stress level if I'm feeling, if I'm at work. I'm just curious to see, how this is actually impacting me physically, and
Right.
what do I if like the issue, if it is like, what can I do? Do I need to go take a walk outside? Do I need to do some deep breathing? Being able to monitor that, because like I said, having those stress for so long, like that can impact you negatively health wise. So you
Yeah.
want to be able to emotionally regulate and do what you need to do to bring yourself back into a wellness level to be whole again. So doing those things, making that definitely is helpful. Making adjustments to make adjustments where needed. Trying to think what else for relationship management. Just getting feedback from your friends every once in a while. If you want to do it daily or just in conversation, just ask someone, like, how do you feel I am as a friend, or what feedback do you have for me? Because it does work best, I think, when you're seeing yourself from someone else's eyes as well, getting that feedback, and that also teaches you to be able to deal with feedback, because some people, it's hard. It can be hard to get feedback.
Right. Yeah, that's real talk, man. Yeah, that
Yeah.
can definitely be a challenge for some people, for sure, for sure.
Mhm.
And I appreciate you for sharing the device that you had. If
Yeah.
you remember what that is, definitely let me know. Send me the link, because I would love to
Oh
check it
yeah,
out.
I can send you the link. It's not an Apple Watch or anything,
No,
but
that's good.
it
It
gets the
seems very
job done.
affordable, so like, let me go grab one. That's great. That's great. Well, before we wrap up, I always like to have this fun segment that we close the show out with my guests. It's called Pick Three. So the way that this works is I'm going to ask you to choose a random number between 1 and 16. Now, whatever number you choose, there's going to be a question that's going to be associated to that number. I'll share that question with you. You'll answer it. And then after that, we'll wrap things up. That work for you?
Sounds good.
Cool, cool. So let's see. What will be your first number between 1 and 16?
7.
7. So the question is, if you could go back in time, what is one thing that you would change about yourself before you got started? So like typically this question would be about somebody getting started in their business, but I know our discussion has been a little bit different. So let me pose it this way. If you could go back and change something before you started to get into emotional IQ or in developing your emotional intelligence, what would it be? What's something that you wish you would have started before then?
Something I wish I would have started is just being more open to people.
Mm,
I as an introvert, I think I shied away from conversations, and looking back, I think I could have learned a lot more from people and been more, um, I guess, more engaging with people. And as I've grown and be able to appreciate other people's stories, I wonder where I would have been if I would have just talked to people more and learned
mhm.
more from people and enjoyed conversations more. I, I perhaps, I mean, I ended up falling, I guess where I needed to be, but you never know what opportunities I might have fallen into. Maybe I would have perhaps done more with counseling, coaching. I mean, there's still time in the future for things like that, but
Mhm.
maybe I would have decided to go down another path. But I'm definitely grateful for the path that I'm on and the opportunities I have now. But who knows what the future may hold.
Right, right. Nah, that's amazing. That's amazing. What's your second number between 1 and 16?
Between 1 and 16, I'll go with 10.
10. So the question is, okay, so this question is, what was the first business idea that you had that you did or didn't launch? So that, do you mind picking another question? Because that's kind of, I don't know how to flip that one and turn it
I
into
mean,
emotional
I have
intelligence.
done some things outside of work, so I
Okay.
could respond to that.
Oh, perfect.
Um, as far as business things on my
Mhm.
own, I started doing. I'm trying to think. The very first thing I did was creating websites for people,
Oh, dope.
and that took emotional intelligence because I had to reflect on the skills that I learned. And when I had a podcast,
Mhm.
and you were actually a guest on that podcast called
Yes,
the
it was an
Go and
honor.
Grow Show back in the
Yes.
day, and using those skills, I reflected on how much I enjoyed doing my own website. And I said, let me try using a skill with other people. And I started
Mhm.
creating websites for other people as well.
Nice. Nice. Yo, I love that. I love that. What's your last number between 1 and 16?
Hmm, I'll go with 3.
Three. So this question is, what is a book that you want to read but you haven't picked up yet?
Oh gosh. Oh gosh, that's tough. My Amazon, between Amazon and Goodreads, like I have so many books. Um, there's a book I want to read called let's see, I think it's called Mindset Psychology for Success by
Mm,
Carol Dweck. I've heard a lot of people talking on Twitter about it.
mhm.
And that's one thing, like I think the end goal, like especially with emotional intelligence, is a mindset shift.
Yeah.
Being able to grow and not box yourself in or have limitations. But I definitely, over the years, have learned that shifting your mindset is something that is very important for success.
Right.
Being able to deal with things in your past, because we're acting when we do self-management things. We're usually making actions from our past, things that we
Mhm.
went through that kind of shaped our how we act going forward. So
Right.
some people, you can go to therapy or deal with things if you need to, but having a mindset shift is definitely important to be able to act from a whole place, a healed place, and not just operating out of your past. For
Right.
example, I was talking about DB Bedford,
Mhm.
growing up in California, that mindset he had to have, kill or be killed, or, eat or be eaten. Like
Mhm.
that's something that's hard to break out of. But if you can
Right.
learn through emotional intelligence, through, all these other tools we talked about, therapy and things, to break out of that, that's definitely going to set you up for success.
Most definitely. Wow. Yo, Bree, you come on here and drop so many gems. I know you've helped me to gain a much better understanding of emotional intelligence. You definitely lit a fire on me to make sure I start developing it and working towards it. Definitely want to make sure I take that assessment before months in. So I really appreciate you for sharing that and just coming on and just dropping so
Awesome.
many gold nuggets on us. Definitely let everybody else out there know how they can support you, how they can get in contact with you, or if they have any questions that they like to ask you about emotional intelligence.
Sure. I'm currently starting to blog at prosandproverbs.com. I will be planning to talk about emotional intelligence, especially from a faith perspective, because like the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun, and emotional intelligence is really it's biblical. There's so
Yeah.
many. I didn't even. I mean, a lot of things we talked about is just a tip of the iceberg.
Hmm.
Like, and there's so many stories like in the Bible. Even Jesus himself like showed emotional intelligence, and there's a lot to learn from. And also, you can email me at prosandproverbs@gmail.com, or my personal Twitter is Bri 817 as well. So all of those are different ways you can see what I'm up to. But yeah, like I said, it's the tip of the iceberg. Like there's so
Yeah.
much uh, you could keep talking about with emotional intelligence.
Right. Yeah. This has been such an enlightening conversation. I appreciate you letting us know about your blog. I see I didn't even know about it. That definitely got to make sure I swing by, check it out, and show you some love and support as well. And I hope that everybody tuning in will do that. I'll make sure that I have the links to your Twitter, to your blog, and your email so everybody can get in contact with you and show you some love. But other than that, before we go, just want to hand you the mic. Are there any last or closing words that you like to share, or any questions that you like to ask me before we wrap up today?
Well, just I want to say I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be on the podcast and share with people about emotional intelligence. And the great thing about emotional intelligence is that it's a skill you can grow in. While IQ is usually kind of set. We have the IQ test. It's pretty set for people, but emotional intelligence is even a skill you can grow every day, gradually over time, and it's a journey. It's a personalized journey for you. What works for you may not work for someone else, but as you grow in it, they say that emotional intelligence, also known as EQ, can be a bigger predictor of success than IQ. It's no, it's kind of at the end of the day, you don't want to be, very skilled, but people don't want to work with you. Like one of the
Right.
biggest reasons people leave companies is that they don't like their manager. Like I guarantee the person who had the most influence on your life was someone who was emotionally intelligent, whether it be a teacher or a boss or a parent. Like they all probably displayed emotional intelligence. And that's something they're going to remember how you made them feel. So it's definitely a skill that anyone is worth looking into for anyone. And I'm curious, Jay, like
Yes.
as we mentioned those four different areas, which one do you think might be a strength, and which one do you think might be a growth opportunity?
That's great. So similar to you, I think my strength is self-awareness.
Hmm.
I feel like for quite some time, I've just been able to kind of tap in, reflect, and view myself for who I am, be able to highlight my flaws and the areas of improvement. So I definitely think one of my strengths would have to be self-awareness. When it comes to the growth area, I would say just because of the nature of what I do, from a professional perspective, from a content perspective, relationship management is always something that I'm interested in improving in. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm bad at it, but it's something that I want to always make sure that I'm working on developing, because it's a skill that I know I'll need every single day, whether I'm talking or speaking to clients, whether I'm interacting with family and friends, or when I'm having amazing conversations with guests like yourself. So for me, those would be the two.
Awesome, awesome. I'm
Yeah.
curious to see if you do take an assessment. You'll have to let me know how it goes.
I will. I will. Yo, I,
Yeah.
I like, what was it? It was a few years ago. I had the opportunity to do Strength Finders. And like when
Okay.
I took
Yeah.
that assessment, it was really, really beneficial. And I'm excited now because I didn't even know that there was an emotional intelligence assessment. I probably should have known. But yeah, definitely want to test it out just to see. Like, I think self-awareness is strong, but like you mentioned, you never know until you take the assessment and be like, oh man, maybe I got some work to do.
Yeah, and that's you'll never as the assessment, it's only gonna, give you a starting point.
Mhm.
And there's different the company that Emotional Intelligence 2.0, the authors are their company is called Talent Smart.
Hmm.
And that's where when you get the assessment, you go on to Talent Smart's website,
Okay.
and you'll see they'll store your results, and they'll give you your assessment results, and you'll see the different areas where you rank and things like that. So, and different assessments will give you, they might have a little variance in them, but for example, with EIQ2, the company I have uh, the emotional intelligence certification with, when you take our assessment, it will help you. It'll give you strategies to improve your EQ
Mm,
based on like where you fail. I'm not.
okay.
I think the Talent Smart one, it may do that as well, but
Mhm,
you can't go wrong taking an assessment and seeing where you are. And for someone who just wants to sample it out,
mhm,
6 seconds. I think it's .org. I want to say they're an emotional intelligence organization. They have a free. I think it's probably quick too, a quick free assessment
mm.
where they kind of look at you across the different four areas of emotional intelligence as well. They're a really great organization too.
Yeah, yo, I appreciate you for sharing that. I definitely will make sure that I reach out to you after I take the assessment and let you know what the results reveal. And the other one that I'm gonna look into that you mentioned was the Enneagram, because like that's
Yes.
something that I've never done either. So yeah, I'll look into that. Now, just out of curiosity, I know I'm asking another question that's out in left field, but with the
That's all right.
Enneagram, does that still tap into emotional intelligence, or does it reveal something else? What does that assessment do?
So it reveals your values for each
Mm,
of those nine. It kind of puts people into nine different categories. Another
okay.
test that's really well known is Myers Briggs. So, and
Hmm.
that's more of a personality test. And the Enneagram is also kind of personality as well.
Okay.
You have your top value that you have. And that
Mm,
kind of helps you know if you're in alignment. Like for me, being an Enneagram 9, if I'm someone like who values peace, but that means I shy away from conflict. So
right.
I'm using it as a growth point, and that's the something I want to stress for people to grow from these tests and not put yourself in a box.
Right.
Like with Myers Briggs, you learn the first letter is I or E, and you learn if you're an introvert or an extrovert. As someone who's an introvert, you might say, oh, because you learn you're an introvert, you might say, I can't do public speaking. I'm an introvert. I would challenge you to use those as growth opportunities and not a reason to put yourself in a box. But going back to the Enneagram, it does like they have different like values, strengths for that particular type. Uh, and it just helps you learn about yourself. So the self-awareness, it might even hint at how you interact with other people.
Okay.
It's in different, and there's different groups out there that teach about the Enneagram. So some people like it, some people don't. I say if just take from it what you can
Right.
and grow from it.
Nah, that's helpful. I appreciate that. Yeah, like you definitely given me some homework, some exciting and fun homework that I'm looking forward to engaging. And it's been such an honor. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. I
Yes,
appreciate you once again coming on to the new podcast. And if you ever are interested in coming back, it would be an absolute honor. But I just want to say thank you so much, Bri, for everything that you shared with us today. I truly, truly appreciate you.
definitely. It's an honor being on the podcast. Thank you.